realistic expectations for the top 3 drafted cornerbacks from the 2024 NFL draft class heading into their rookie NFL training camp. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. We greatly appreciate every listen as we are headed into the football season. Listen, I want to say this, man. Go ahead. If you can hear my voice, hit the like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel because this podcast is about to be fire, DP. We are talking about the cornerbacks. We are talking about a training camp preview. We're going to talk about all the first rounders, Mr. Quinyon Mitchell, Mr. Terrion Arnold, and then we're going to talk about our guy, Nate Wiggins, your guy, DP, the Clemson Tiger himself, man. But before we get started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Quinyon Mitchell, Keith. Is he going to be able to become a starter as a rookie for those Philadelphia Eagles, a guy that they drafted round 1? After last year when they drafted Keely Ringo in round 4, they brought in from Alabama, former LSU Tiger.
Elias Ricks.
Yeah, Elias Ricks. Eli Ricks, bringing him in, I think, is an undrafted free agent.
Yep.
James Bradbury was not good for them last year. And I'm expecting Quinyon Mitchell to put, even though they paid him, talking about James Bradbury, I think Quinyon Mitchell is going to put and apply absolute pressure on Bradbury to perform in training camp because you think about now. I remember listening to AJ Brown. I think it was during minicamp. He said Quinyon. He said it was Quinyon that said this to him. He hadn't said anything the whole camp, and then while AJ Brown was running routes, he made a comment telling him. I think he said the route was trash or the route needed to be better or something like that. And he was like. And he just started laughing. He's like, I love that though. I like that energy. He's like, that's the first thing you say to me is about my route running or whatever. That's the first thing we really discuss on the field. But I interviewed and spent time, with Quinyon at the Senior Bowl. He is a kind of a silent assassin. He doesn't talk a whole lot, but he's very confident. And I think bringing that ability to fit into Vic Fangio's zone-based scheme, the quick twitch, the explosiveness, the athleticism, the trigger downhill, the ball skills, the things that he brings to the table. Let's be honest, James Bradbury does not have in his his toolbox anymore. He's a little older, longer in the tooth right now. He's not the same guy that was in Carolina that went to the New York Giants. He's older, and I think that Quinyon, because right now this is a team that needs to win now. You paid, Jalen Hurts, you paid AJ Brown, you paid Devonta Smith. You need to win right now. And with this defensive line, they'll be able to get pressure. They'll be able to apply pressure to opposing quarterbacks. And with a Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay, big play Slay in the secondary at the cornerback position as your potential starting duo, that sounds a lot more as like a playmaking duo than Slay and James Bradbury.
Yeah, so I agree with that statement. It's interesting, DP, because they not only went one corner, but they went 2 corners, right? I think they drafted our guy in the second round. Was that the second? I think that was the second round draft pick, DP, and Cooper DeJean, out of Iowa. And so I'm looking at Quinyon, it's like, does he become the starter, right? You have to draft him to be the starter, right? Because there was a point in the season last year with the Philadelphia Eagles to where everybody said their secondary is a problem. It was like week 9 or week 10, right? Mm-hmm. Then week 12, everybody said their secondary is the problem. Week 16, everybody says the secondary is the problem, which means that you couldn't address it, right, at the end of the day. And I want to say Did they even have a coordinator change at some point? Or
I believe they did. I
yeah,
believe they changed DCs.
yeah, I believe so also. So even with that being said, and you still can't fix the problem, then now you have a talent problem. So you bring in a Quinyon Mitchell. So the idea would be for him to be the starter, right? And I think that if you felt that comfortable with James Bradbury, there were other positions of needs that you could have addressed. So you draft James. I mean, I said not James Bradbury. You draft Quinyon Mitchell that early to be able to replace James Bradbury, and then that way he can challenge. And then when you get deeper into the season, week 10, week 11, week 12, he's an experienced starter for you. And then, like you talked about, DP, the athleticism should reign supreme to what James Bradbury offers, right? If you want to bring in James Bradbury off the bench, give you some valuable reps, that's fine. But you drafted Quinyon Mitchell that early. He should be the starter for you. Now, I have a question. Do you think he would be the starter week 1? Because we talked about playing different zone and big schemes and things like that. Are you throwing them out there week 1 with potential for blown coverages and things like that?
Let's look at their schedule. They have Green Bay week 1. That's tough. He has. I think he has to show me he has the scheme down pat.
I'll say this too. And Green Bay has the opportunity to kind of stress this defense, the secondary, because they can go 4 or 5 wide, right? And I think Jordan Love was just drawing up a play, right? And he was like, "Hey, I want to go empty." So they go 5 wide, then now you're forcing all of these defensive backs to be on the field, right? And I think they went and signed. Did they bring did Chauncey Gardner-Johnson go back to Philadelphia? Yeah, he went back to Philly, right? And so you have him playing the nickel position, but then also, you bring in these other young DBs. So I believe Quinyon is going to have to play in that one. But do you think he's going, like we said, like past the Packers? Do you think he's going to be there penciled in? Hey, he's our number 1 starter. The Packers are they're a different case study, right? Because I don't know if they have a bunch of A+ talent, but they have a lot of solid B pluses, right, across the board.
Especially, and then you put them into an A+ type of scheme where it can stress you, and it's like, we got some problems here. And look, with zone, the big thing about zone is communicating, right? So having him communicate with the other members of the secondary on level changes, switch releases, different things like that. Who's taking who? If they cross, like who's going where? Like being able to communicate is going to be big for the zone defense. I do think that Vic Fangio. And like you said, drafting them first round, they knew what they wanted. They knew what they were doing. They know that they wanted to get a potential starter as a rookie, and he's going to bring that. Where I think Cooper DeJean is listed as one of the potential nickel / safety DBs on their depth chart right now, which makes a lot of sense when you have because whether it's Darius Slay, Keely Ringo can play outside, and he played solid ball for them last year in the time that he got on the field. So you're going to have athletic big guys on the outside. All of them have size. Now you put Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the slot, or throw him back to strong safety, Vontae Maddox, Cooper DeJean going to nickel. This secondary has a lot of talent. Now it's just all about finding the right source or meshing everything together. And I think that Quinyon should be their starter. He got to have a good camp, though. You know what I mean? You can't go out there, get beat in practice and expect to start. He's got to have a good camp and preseason. And if he does that, I think he should start.
Yeah, across the entire NFL, DP, this is one of the position groups that I'm going to be pay attention to when you talk about as far as camp battles, right? Because you have young guys versus young guys. You have rookies versus second-year players. You have rookies versus veterans, right? You have rookies versus rookies, honestly, as far as the competition within this defensive back room. So I'm definitely going to be paying attention to this for the training camp. DP, up next, man, we're going to the Motor City, the place where the draft just happened, the 2024 NFL draft. We're going to talk about Mr. Terrion Arnold, man, and how he brings stability to Detroit. And should he be looked at as Detroit's number 1 corner going into the 2024 NFL season? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And summer is winding down, guys. There's no better time or place to take your family to your local MLB ballpark, or make it a trip and go out of state to see your favorite MLB team. And Game Time can help you with that. How? Game Time will help take the guesswork out of buying those MLB tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. First round pick for the Detroit Lions, Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. Keith, this secondary for Detroit has needed help for some time now. For the past couple years, they made some changes. Cam Sutton's no longer there. They brought in Carlton Davis, the third from Tampa Bay, I believe, via a trade. Still have Emmanuel Mosley, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch is there, Ifeatu Melifonwu, who plays the safety position as well. Putting Terrion Arnold in this group, also in this Rick Straw, who they drafted, in the same draft, they double dipped first 2 picks. Matter of fact, I think Terrion Arnold should be their number 1 corner. I think him, the combination of him and Carlton Davis gives you the type of ability to mix and match with size and athleticism. Where, Carlton Davis can play those bigger body. If you're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, Carlton Davis, you can match him up against and feel, some comfort there against A.J. Brown. I don't know if I want Terrion Arnold matching up against A.J. Brown because of that size difference, that strength difference, the physicality difference, because those slants and end breakers that he likes to run on time with Jalen Hurts, kind of hard to play through the frame and get to the catch point and to the pocket to knock the ball out or rake through the hands when you got a 6'2", 230-pound receiver with a strong frame and broad shoulders. It's kind of hard to win through the post when he posts him up. But I think Terrion should be there at least number 1 A type corner along with Carlton Davis, because I think those guys should be their starters while we see what we have in this Rick Straw and eventually get him on the field. They need Terrion Arnold to come out there and be a dude for them, right? To bring that leadership, bring that playmaking ability. He had some of the smoothest, not even some of, he had the best hips in the draft in terms of being able to drop with his side saddle bail, being able to backpedal and then flip, turn, swivel, and drive. He was the best at it in this class, in the 2024 cornerback class, and he has that playmaking ability. And with this pass rush, I'm excited for him to be paired up with this pass rush of Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston when he comes off the bench, the different players on the interior D-line. Keith, I think he could be a guy that, I'm not going to say he's going to be the leading interception leader as a rookie, but he can. This pass rush going to put him in some positions where, hey, just break on the ball, young fella. Just break on the ball and be that wide receiver that you are and make a play on it. I'm excited to see him in this secondary, learning from Coach Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, no, and there's probably not a better situation. I think we talked about this pre-draft too, right? If you're a cornerback, what are some spots you want to go to? It's with Aaron Glenn, the guy who played defensive back for 14 years, right? And the other thing too with AG, defensive coordinator, is that he wasn't a very big guy, right? So he had to be very calculated. I think he's listed at 5'9" maybe or something like that. He had to be very calculated, and to play that long in the NFL at the cornerback position, you have to be calculated. You have to be technically sound, right? You have to understand defenses. You have to be smart. You have to be intelligent. So he's going to teach the game to Terrion Arnold, and also in this Rick Straw. I think this brings stability to the Detroit Lions, right? And I want to give a shout out to General Manager Brad Holmes, right? Because this is the second draft in a row where he simply said, we had a problem. Let's address it, right? Let's watch the film and draft a good football player at the end of the day, regardless of what people think, right? Because just how people were critical, him going running back, linebacker in the first round in the 2023 draft, right? People could have been critical of him going cornerback, right, with his first 2 picks. But he said, we have a position of need and we're going to sit there and address it. And they addressed it with 2 players that I really like, man. Terrion Arnold, and even in his registrar, I had a high second round grade on him. I think he only fell because of, I think it was an oblique injury or something like that. So
yeah, he couldn't test or anything if I remember correctly, during the draft process.
Yeah, I think he missed most of the draft process. So definitely have to look at it, just from that perspective. But what I think Terrion Arnold brings, like you said, is the potential for ball skills, but it's also, he fits in from a mentality perspective. This is a guy that's highly active against the run, and you don't appreciate his willingness to tackle until you watch a cornerback that isn't willing to tackle, right? Then the teams are throwing quick screens, bubble screens, things like that, and he's going out there and being competitive. I'll say this too. We're talking about training camp preview, right? What I'll be watching for is one thing: him versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not for the actual physical matchup, but as we watch this wide receiver documentary on Netflix, right, we're starting to understand mentality, right, at the end of the day. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's a pro. And I can't wait to watch those guys go against it, because I think Amon is going to give it to him, right? He's going to beat him, right? That's just natural. It's going to happen in one-on-ones. But I think there's going to be a lesson behind the rep also, right? And Amon is smart enough to know, I'm going to beat this young guy, show him a lesson, because I know I'm going to need him in December. I'm going to need him in January, right? So I'm going to be interested to see how do those things go, because Terrion is also a high-level competitor, right? That's extremely confident, that believes in working hard and giving everything he has. So I'm looking forward to that clash, DP. And then we just talk about what Dan Campbell brings to the Detroit Lions. I think that they drafted not only Terrion Arnold, but they drafted Ennis Rakestraw too, who are two cornerbacks that fit what it means to be a Detroit Lion right now, right? This is not your grandpa's Detroit Lions. This is a new version of the Detroit Lions, and they both fit that.
No, they bite kneecaps in Detroit. You know what I mean? They bite kneecaps in Detroit, man. And Dan Campbell's gonna find him kneecap biters. And if you're willing to take a kneecap off, you're gonna get drafted or assigned to this team. And the energy, and I love you bringing up Amon St. Brown. I think, like, if there's any day that Terrion just isn't feeling like himself, and you get that one-on-one, that first one-on-one rep with Amon-Ra, he's a talker. He's going to talk his trash. He's going to get in your face. He's going to wake you up as a defender. And I think he's going to be able to pair energy with energy and make just iron sharpen iron, make that young player better. Both those guys, Ennis Rakestraw as well, make them better. And like, listen, this is how you lost this rep. Like, this is how I watched some of your other reps. I see that you lean heavy on the outside when you're in the slot. And I played to that. I pressed you to that outside foot, and I broke back inside. You know what I mean? Or I stemmed inside to get you to shift weight, and then I broke back outside. Like, being able to give him those teaching lessons as a veteran receiver, and also, like, just the teammate that he is too. Both of them are great teammates, right? Just so it's like you think about being during the season, and if one of them is not having the greatest game, they're going to be able to pick the other one up. Like, hey, man, I know what you can do. You know what you can do. Who cares that you've dropped 2 passes? Who cares that he got that touchdown on you? Let's get it together and go out here and make a play the next time, right? And I think we saw that on the documentary with Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. It might have been the Bears game when they were losing by 2 touchdowns, ended up coming back to win that game. But you saw the resolve, the mental fortitude of this team. And I think pairing Terrion and then also pairing him with Brian Branch, another Alabama defensive back, like a guy that's going to be able to help teach him the ropes. We always talk about it from a veteran, even though Brian Branch's only been in the league a year, still he's a veteran to what, Terrion Arnold is. Teach him how to be a pro. Like, teach him how, hey, you know how Nick Saban taught us how to watch film. Like, but here's a little extra that we do here now. You got into the pros. Like, you got way more time on your hands. There's no class. There's no study hall. There's none of that. Like, yeah, when you leave here, you go into your house or your apartment. Make sure you're still on your game when you get there, and being able to know where you need to get better and what type of receivers we're facing this coming Sunday, right? And for them, like, I mean, they got a lot of receivers they got to face in this division, right? We talk about Green Bay. Then you have, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, and the trio that is Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore in Chicago. Yep. That secondary is going to be tested, but I think with the talent that they have there now, I really like their chances to go man-to-man or to match up well against all of those receiving cores, because they can mix and match who's guarding who. You're going to see different caliber matchups, and I think Amon-Ra giving Terrion that welcome to the NFL one-on-one type of meeting during training camp and practices will help him not saying that he will be overwhelmed the first matchup against Justin Jefferson, but when you playing against an elite player on your own team, it takes away that awe moment of playing against an elite player for the first time, come regular season. You're like, you know what? I play Amon-Ra St. Brown in practice every day. Yeah, Justin Jefferson, you great. My guy's dope too. So I have full confidence in myself to be able to come out here and get the job done.
Yeah, DP, I agree with you. It's just, we got real close to the LSU slander on this podcast, man. We got real close to it, DP.
Hey,
we almost had
wide receiver 1 in my book.
We always had a disagreement, man. But let's keep this podcast going and flowing, man. You talked about facing elite talent, right? one of the best teams in the NFL is the Baltimore Ravens. So Nate Wiggins, he's going to face some really good talent at the end of the day, right? He's going to be in a really good culture. We're going to talk about what does he have to bring, and can he be the key piece for the Baltimore Ravens to make a Super Bowl in this upcoming season? We're going to talk about Nate Wiggins coming up next.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Why? Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Clemson Tiger, defensive back, cornerback, first round pick for the Baltimore Ravens, Nate Wiggins. Keith, I'm excited for Nate Wiggins in this Baltimore Ravens defense. Kind of wished it was still with Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator from last year. But he's in Seattle now, right? But I think for them, like with this, the creativity that they're going to be able to have in their secondary in terms of, hey, we can go to nickel, we can go to dime. They can play three safety sets if they want. Brandon Stevens, who's one of their veteran corners, has played good ball last 2 years. Marlon Humphrey, Pro Bowl caliber, at times all-pro caliber type of corner, right? Both of those guys can play in the nickel. And when you have starters that can go from outside to inside, and then now you can bring Nate Wiggins, who brings that elite athleticism, as we saw at the Combine. I saw it at his pro day. I've watched him work out. He's been working out with Javon Baker, going, man coverage, just kind of working on his game this summer and everything. Excuse me. And he's moving well, fluid hips. He's transitioning well. He looks so locked in to heading into training camp. I'm excited to see what they're able to do with him because he's similar to Terrion Arnold. Nate Wiggins has some of the better ball skills at the cornerback position in this draft. A guy that would bait you into underneath routes and make you think it's safe, and then you see him trigger downhill. His shoulders is parallel to the end zone, and it's a house call. It's a pick six. And you ask Drake May, the quarterback from FIU, got a taste of that when he tried him. He was able to make plays. And I think for him going into the defense, and one of the things that he was knocked about was like, he doesn't tackle all the time, right? But then when he does tackle, he plays with a good level of physicality for a thinner frame corner. Yeah, playing for John Harbaugh, you're gonna have to tackle, and I feel like that's not good.
That is not gonna fly in that locker room, DP.
No,
I can promise you one thing: you don't want to walk in that locker room after a game, after a potential loss, right? And you know that you might have turned down a tackle, right? That's not gonna fly with the Baltimore Ravens. Never have, never will be, right?
This is Roquan Smith sitting in
you're not in
that
right?
locker room. Like, not a chance.
It's not part of that culture, DP. But I agree with you, and I look at the Nate Wiggins and them drafting him, right? It's to have a high caliber athlete, right? And it's been a while, even when we talk about the Baltimore Ravens, them just really addressing the cornerback and feeling like they get good return on investment because they've took some swings at some guys, but the last guy, and I may be wrong, so I know people gonna come in and let me know, but the last guy in regards to Nate Wiggins, as far as them just drafting a high caliber corner with length that can run, was it Jimmy Smith, right? When he came out of, I think, Colorado, it might have been that long ago, right? That they've gotten good return on investment. I know they drafted, was it Caillou Blue Kelly a couple years ago? That simply didn't work out. So I look at Nate Wiggins and just his overall length and athleticism, and it's like, hey, let's just add another high caliber athlete on the back end of his defense because the safety combination is good, right? They sit there and they have Kyle Hamilton and they have Marcus Williams, and then they also signed, which I really like, Eddie
Yeah.
Jackson just recently, right? So they have 3 safeties that they can have on the field. So now what are we going to do? We're going to have, Nate Wiggins, right? Another high caliber corner where we can play some man, but we can also mix and match some zone concepts. And like you said, that's where Nate Wiggins really gets his shine on, right? That's where he's able to use his length, athleticism, ball skills, go intercept the football and then return that thing for a touchdown. So that's how I look at it. I look at when I line up on the field and I see on one side, I see Kyle Hamilton and Nate Wiggins. I see a guys with a lot of range and a lot of length to make plays on a football. And it may make you want to go to the other side of the field.
100%, right? And even like you said, bringing in Eddie Jackson with Kyle Hamilton, he was that jack of all trades. He played up top, he played nickel, he played free and strong safety. He played wherever they needed him to play. And bringing in Eddie Jackson after losing Geno Stone, if they wanted to go to those 3 safety sets on those nickel and dime packages, you can pull you can pull a Trenton Simpson off the field and turn Kyle Hamilton into a big dime backer. Now he's matched up on the tight end, and you still have Eddie Jackson and Marcus Williams in 2 high sets at safety. Got, Nate, Marlon, and Brandon Stevens at corner on the field at the same time. And I have playmakers like all over my secondary. And it's like quarterbacks have to be, whether it's Justin Fields or Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, Deshaun Watson, right, in Cleveland, Joe Burrow, like you have the ability to match up with every offense in your division now. And those quarterbacks have to be a little weary in terms of which receiver they target, who's in coverage, and where the ball placement is. Because if it's not on point, multiple DBs in that secondary can make a play on the ball and take it away.
No, I agree 100%. And that should make them dangerous. And that when you talk about, because we talked about last year when they got into the matchup with the Chiefs, right? And it's just like, you just need one play from a defensive back, right? And I think it was multiple times where it was just one guy almost intercepted the football, one guy almost made a play, right? And you just need a guy that could potentially match up with the high caliber wide receivers in the AFC, right? When you still see, Stephon Diggs still in the AFC, right? He's just with the Texans, right? So the Stephon Diggs, the Tyreek Hills of the AFC, you want to be able to match up with those guys and maybe running stride for stride, they can make a play on the football, and that way they'll be able to, just make that one game-changing play. Just in case the offense is only able to score 20 points, you want to have a defense to be able to back them up. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. If you can hear my voice, man, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, so that way you can get all of our draft content. Listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Again, training camp is underway. We're still doing some previews this week. We're going to get into Keon Coleman over there in Buffalo Bills training camp with Josh Allen and Khalil Shakir and all those guys, him and Dalton Kincaid. Kind of talk about what we're expecting from that duo. So much more coming up on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.